I'd like to welcome those of you that are tuning in to Red Soul Sessions podcast.
I've heard whispers of a lost land.
But people get quiet when we start talking about, mothers and women. We can talk all day long about men and fathers, and
We'll
everybody's on
dog them out.
board tearing them up.
Dog them out. And
Yeah,
that's one thing I can't do. And the only reason why I personally can't do it is because I was raised by a single father. Like once I was gone, once my mother kicked me out that Christmas Eve, and my daddy came back and came and got me. It's been me and him thugging it out.
we need to talk about it. We need to stop sweeping it under the rug. We need to make sure that these things are, worked on. People are able to heal. They know how to heal from these things, how to do the work, because everybody doesn't. Sometimes people don't even know. Like I said, I was in my late 40s before I even understood that my issues were coming from a mother wound. All growing up, once I got to a point where I knew I was having issues, I always thought they were daddy issues. 9 times out of 10, our mothers went through things as well that we don't know about, you know and may have created some of what and who they were. But again, the jealousy and the hate that sometimes comes between the daughters and mothers is a real thing. I have had some, say they're jealous of certain things with their daughters, and it's an immediate red flag. As soon as I hear it, as soon as I hear it, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa.
At a certain age, you have to realize you can't keep basing things that happened to you in your past on how you live your future.
That's right.
Um, and then that's when the issue lies. A lot of people want to say your parents were still growing, or they don't have a guidebook, or whatever. But when they deal with other people, they know how to act. When they go to
Mhm.
work, they know how to act.
Everything that I've been doing, no matter, how hard it may have seemed while I was doing it, that it was all worth it. That's the whole goal.
Hmm.
You know, that's the whole goal. We don't want to keep passing this stuff down.
Where diversity thrives, testament to nature's artistry.
Hey everyone, Rose here, aka Red. For those of you that don't know me, first and foremost, I'd like to welcome those of you that are tuning in to Red Soul Sessions podcast, where we dive into the essential art of healing and various topics that are wrapped around it. I'd like you to settle in and join me and a special guest for some intimate conversations and a little bit of uh, touchy, a touchy subject tonight. The topic is shadowed love, and we're talking about where jealousy comes into play with mothers. So let me tell you a little story about myself while we're waiting on our guest to come in. Um, Transparent moment. So my mother gave me away at 3 days old. Um, to my great aunt, which was her father's sister. And she decided years later, when I was getting ready to go into third grade, to just pop up and snatch me out of the yard. And my life flipped upside down overnight. So imagine, as a child going to live with your mother, but your mother was a stranger because you didn't know her. And I had a really nice life and very traditional, filled with everything that I needed, to just the opposite, not having the things that I needed and whatnot. So that made a very, very strained relationship between me and my mother. And as time went on, I didn't realize it as a child, but once I, started getting a little older and she would say different things to me, understood fully that one of the biggest things was that she was very, very, very jealous of the fact that I was so much different than her, the exact opposite. She was very passive. I was very outgoing. And I reminded her of my dad. So, there's numerous different things that factor into this. Like I said, sometimes, one of the areas is that the mother is reminded of the father. Now, mind you, I didn't even meet my dad until I was 35. The pregnancy was hidden. Um, well, she actually lied and, said that she had miscarried. Um, so the pregnancy was hidden, and I was told that I, wasn't, uh, able to pursue finding him, or else there would be repercussions. I would be put into foster care if I pursued that. So it was really hard on me. So, what it created in me was codependency. I literally went from the child and turned into the mother. So I was constantly on a daily basis doing different things to try to get my mother's approval, um, to try to be the good girl, to, get her to love me. She was not affectionate at all. So, and I came from a household that was very affectionate towards me. So it was very, very rough, um, you know, trying to get that from her. So some of the other areas is, it could be competition for attention, spotlight, or success. Maybe that daughter, her light shines bright and she gets a lot of attention, and the mother has a problem with that. Maybe the mother is narcissistic. Now, that could be another area. Sometimes, that is the case. And, now we're dealing with put downs, we're dealing with different types of punishments, all types of things. That narcissistic dynamic is crazy. I went through that with the ex-husband. But anyway, it could also be looks. Maybe the daughter looks more youthful. Maybe she's a different size that the mother envies, or dresses better, or, her personality is better. I had a friend before that told me she was jealous of her daughter because of the daughter's personality. Maybe it's material possessions. Maybe that daughter, has a lot of different things, maybe things that even the father provided. Maybe the mother and father aren't together, and the father does a lot for the daughter, and they have a wonderful relationship. Sometimes the mother will be jealous of the father-daughter relationship as well. I mean, it's weird, sounds weird, is weird, but it's definitely a thing. And that friend that I was talking about earlier, that was something that she resented as well. She said that they had a better relationship than she had with the father. So definitely that's strange. Um, I can definitely say being envied by your mom, is rough. It will tear your self-worth down. That's definitely what it did to me. And like I said, I went into codependency. I didn't understand that that's what it was until later, like on in life, years later, in my late 40s, when I started going to counseling for a failed marriage with a narcissist. um, that's when I was introduced to codependency, and the counselor, asked me. She was like, "Did your mom love you?" And I couldn't answer it, and I just sat there and cried because I couldn't answer it. I didn't know if she did or didn't. And by then, my mother had already passed away. And I actually took care of her. She passed away in my home. She had cancer, and I took care of her until then. But that was horrific for me. So, it's time that we have these tough conversations, and we start, working on, different areas that we can help people heal from this type of, it's definitely an abuse. I'm sorry, it is. Uh, where they're able to heal from that, and then, also work on generational healing. So I see that our guest is on. I definitely want to bring her front and center. Queen Entice, it's so lovely to have you here. I appreciate you coming on with me. Could you please go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm Queen Entice. I don't really have an introduction yet.
Well, that's good enough. That's good enough. I know you had already tuned in a little bit and heard, a little bit of what I was saying, and it's definitely a touchy subject because a lot of times people don't want to feel like they're attacking their mother, and we hear, daddy issues, father issues, daddy wounds,
But
and father.
somehow we
Yeah.
bypass the fact that there could be issues with the mother as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot of us running around with mother wounds. And, it's time, like I said, for these conversations to be had. So I know we kind of touched a little bit on it. And you said that you had a troubled relationship as well. Was there anything that you wanted to share with us?
Um, you know, I had the mother who I feel like, how you were saying, had a better, was more envious of my relationship with my father,
Yeah.
probably more likely than most because she didn't have a great relationship with her father. Um, but in the same breath, you shouldn't at a certain age you have to realize you can't keep basing things that happen to you in your past on
Mm,
how you live your future.
that's right.
Um, and then that's when the issue lies. A lot of people want to say your parents were still growing, or they don't have a guidebook, or whatever, but when they deal with other people they know how to act. When they go to
Hmm.
work, they know how to act. When they're out in the streets and they get into it with somebody, they don't put their hands on them. You know what I mean? Like they know how to perform for other people. They should be able to act that same way with their own child.
Yes.
And a lot of people can't agree with that because it's not something that they experience. And I'm grateful that they haven't, but you can't dictate how other people should
Yep.
govern
That's a
their feelings.
Yeah, that's a fact, sis. At some point we do have to be, responsible for, our own life, and we have to take accountability and, do what's necessary to get ourselves, um, to a better place in life. And like I said, a lot of people don't know where to start. And I'm finding that with doing the shadow work coaching that, yeah, people don't know where to start. So I definitely, wanted to put the conversation together, put it out there. This is actually a part two to it. And, just really put some areas out there and things that people can do to, help heal themselves and heal, the generations to come as well. Because a lot of times, it trickles down. There was many things that, I said that I wouldn't do, um, that my mother did. And later on, when I started, well, when I first had my first son, I noticed some things that I was unconsciously doing. I didn't even realize that I was doing it, And one of those things was I was a single mother and I was working a lot. So I was away from him a lot, because of that. And that was a strain. So even though that had absolutely nothing to do with you know, our dynamic of, the jealousy and all of that, it was something that was passed down because my mother didn't really have time for us, and I equated that as not loving me. Did you have anything like that go on with you growing up?
More so with my father, but that was, I do know that was like more so job related. Didn't want to go to jail because he was in the army. But my mom's, I went to work with her. So while she was in the nursing homes and whatnot working, I was sitting in the front with the old people watching TV. Um, So I will say it did put a strain on us, but in the same sense, I was with her. So I think it kind of messed with my work ethic, to the point where I always put my job beforehand of my kids. Like, I'll just make a way. If I can take her, I'll take her. You know what I'm saying? But a kid shouldn't have to go to your place of work, uh, just for you to get by. I feel like. So I'll say a little bit of yeah.
Okay, yeah, most definitely. So I didn't have that type of thing going on. But I missed a lot. So my son spent a lot of time with my mother, or with my brother and his wife and family. More so with my brother and his family. But I remember when he was 16, he came to me, and my son is pretty laid back, and he's quiet. But he came to me and he was crying, and he was like, "Ma, you're never at home, and sometimes I need you." And that's when I understood right then and there. I was like, "Oh my God." There was times where, well, at one point I was working full time at the post office. I was working part time in a group home, and then I had a couple classes that I was taking. And I think that I was still pushing to, overachieve to get, some recognition from my mom, something. I needed something. And I didn't even understand that it was a mother wound that I had. I thought, because my father wasn't in my life, I didn't meet him till I was 35. I thought that that's where my issues were coming from. But going to counseling, she showed me, but that no, it was because I was always looking for my mother's love everywhere, in
And
friendships and
her approval
relationships.
probably too.
Y- Yeah, absolutely. Because, I never really got that from her, not as a child. Now, when, I went into my 20s, I remember different times her saying to me, you're strong. And, there was different things she would say like that. Maybe even a couple times she said she was proud of me. But as I said earlier, my mother wasn't affectionate at all. I don't really remember her ever, like holding me or hugging me or, giving me a kiss. I don't even think I can remember her telling me she loved me until I was in my 20s. So that was a little rough. And I had to battle that in romantic relationships, for a while as well, with the affection part of it. Um, I didn't realize that's where that came from. So, definitely was a thing. What would add, to maybe help people that, went through these type of things, as an adult now, things that they could work on or things that they could do, or just any advice that you could give someone that, went through this dynamic growing up?
Um, so for me, it was more so a physical abuse and a mental abuse situation. Um, I didn't get the I love yous. Um, I believe my mother is still alive. I have been no contact with her since about like sixth or seventh grade. Um, and the two times that we have talked in between there, one turned into a physical fight. Because at that point in time, I had realized that the abuse was no longer the punishment, quote unquote punishment, was no longer punishment. It was actually abuse. I had came to that realization, and then a second time when she needed some funds from my dad, and they had conversated about her talking to me. But then once it started to get disrespectful about my daughter, is when went ahead and cut it off. I will say that if you cannot peacefully and soundly try um, to work on it at this current point in time, don't worry about it. Take the time to yourself and figure out yourself, because respectfully, your mother probably needs to work on herself by herself as well. sometimes you can't work together at this current point in time, and don't be upset and don't think that this is end all be all. Just know that right now is not the time, and know that that is perfectly okay. Um, we have to be sound in ourselves before we can sit here and try and figure out other people's problems. That's their issue.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. For sure. I know, like I said, this is a touchy subject. It's not easy. It brings up a lot of different things. I know it does for me, thinking about it, but I've done so much healing work on myself, and I continue to do that on a daily basis. That, I've worked through a lot of different things. I didn't have as much of the physical abuse as I did the verbal. And, it's funny because my mom wound up kicking me out at 15. So I've been on my own since then. And I remember talking to someone about it, and, they were, like, oh, well, that was rough and this, that, and other. But you know what? Honestly, I know that we sign up for these things. That's number one. But outside of that, well, what I mean, let me go back to that. We sign up for these situations before we get here so that we can work through
Yes,
the
ma'am.
different things that we have to work through. So
Hmm.
I do understand that part. But you know what? Like, even if I didn't, I wouldn't take back anything that I went through because it helped me become the person and the woman that I am today. And I wouldn't be that without these experiences. And being the chosen one, in the family, I take it very seriously, my role very seriously in what it is that I'm doing for the whole family. And, that's what keeps me going when I'm really going through it, because we know shadow work isn't easy. It's hard. And,
Very much so.
oh, yes. I tell my clients before I even start working with them, coaching them through shadow work and all of that, that it's not going to be easy. That it's a lot of people think, oh, well, it's all love and light, and it's not. I have a client right now that's like, with this situation, her mother's still living, and she had to go no contact with her mother a few weeks ago. And, it's during all of these different, planetary
Retrograde.
retrogrades and
Hmm.
and whatnot, and she's really going through it. It's hard for her right now, so we've even had to stop our sessions for now while she isolates and goes within. But yeah, it's definitely not easy. And, I had another person too that I wanted to bring on. And initially, she was like, okay, yeah, I want to come on. I want to, do it anonymously though. But then when it came time, she was like, I talked to my aunt. My aunt said I shouldn't disrespect my mother like that. And,
Right.
yeah, I understood. I definitely understood that. But again, these are
My truth
convers.
is still my truth.
Yeah, yeah,
Respectfully.
absolutely.
My truth
And
is still my truth.
yep,
And if you need to speak on it, you should, respectfully. I understand, respect thy mother, respect thy father. That's in the Bible and whatnot. But, but your truth is still your truth. And if it's so much weight on your shoulders or your chest, you shouldn't have to keep holding it down. You know what I mean? And if you had a, if there wasn't, I don't know how to say that part and not sound rude. But if you knew you did right, you wouldn't have nothing to worry about. And if you knew your sister did right, you wouldn't have. I feel like you wouldn't have no reason to doubt what should be said or what could be said in a sense, respectfully, of course.
absolutely. Well, I've always been the whistleblower.
You
That,
feel me? Like, I'm just gonna tell it like it is. It is
yeah,
what it is. Your story might very different from what I remember happening, but I think you promise I don't earn any brownie points. I don't get two extra pennies for telling my story how my story is for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. That's right. And I think, I've never um, been one to sweep things under the rug. I know that, that's where a lot of the different things in our
mhm.
families, that's where a lot of the different, problems and issues come from because things are swept under the rug.
Just never talked about.
Yeah, there's a lot of families that have petty pedophiles and all types of stuff
Hmm.
in the molesters in the family and all types of things. They sweep it under the rug. No one talks about it. You know,
Turns people sour. The people that
yeah.
it happens to, or the people who know about it, and then you
Hmm.
wondering why they don't feng shui with you. But that's the exact reason.
Yep. But I mean, the thing about it is if we don't face this stuff head on, how do we
And they
even
never gonna
fix it? Yeah. Like, how do we fix it? And I refuse to allow things to keep passing down through the generations, to come, at least in my family. Now I know
be.
everybody's not going to be on board,
Of course not.
but the ones that are, that's the whole goal, to really make some big changes. And I can say for sure, like, I just recently moved back home, but I've been around, it's just me and my brother. My sister, we had the same father and we haven't talked in some years now. But and my two sons, and I'm noticing a lot of different changes and like healthy changes and things that are being made, and that makes my heart happy. That lets me know that everything that I've been doing, no matter how hard it may have seemed while I was doing it, that it was all worth it. That's the whole goal.
Hmm.
you know that's the whole goal. We don't want to keep passing this stuff down. So I was thinking, like, some of the things that people deal with after they've went through this stuff. And I know, like, for me, you know, I was a lot of times in, how can I say, flight or fight with my mom. So I would walk on eggshells,
Hmm.
like, a lot of times. There was times once I got older that I got to a point where I would speak my mind and I would, put some boundaries up. But,
Hmm.
as a child, I walked on eggshells because I never knew what was going to set her off. And so, I didn't realize that, you know, um, put a lot of, well, first off, it made me feel unsafe. I felt a lot of guilt and shame. I had low self esteem for sure, and that, like, you know spilled into relationships and
Hmm.
stuff. And I can be honest and say that through relationships, I was looking for that love from my mom. That validation that I wanted from her. I was
Hmm.
looking for that through that, and even in some friendships as well, overdoing it, just to get that validation from people, that I was, you know, um, I guess doing my part or doing a good job,
Giving
you
the
know. So,
most and doing the most. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And, so it took a lot of healing after that because, like I said, I was in my late 40s when I started going to counseling. And she even brought that up to me, and she suggested this book when I first started going, and it was called Codependency No More. I can't remember who the author is, but it was a phenomenal book. And oh my God, it helped me so much. That book that did, because I didn't even realize that I had that type of thing going on. That I was constantly trying to fix people because I was always
Hmm.
trying to fix my mom. You know,
Hmm.
I wanted her to do better so bad, and I was so outgoing, meaning that I've always been the go getter. I've been a go getter all my life and self sufficient because, like I said, she put me out at 15, so I had to figure it out from there. So I've always been that, but I've always been a fixer. And, now at 54, I am to a
Shut
place
up.
where, yeah, I'll be 55 in January.
Shut up.
Um,
No,
yep.
you not.
Yes, I am, boo. 1970. But, yeah, I've come to a place now where, um, I'm not that fixer. I realize that, I can only, shine my light and, give what I can give. And sometimes it just has to be enough at that. And it takes for a person to want to fix themselves. And, you know, I mean, everybody's not going to want to. And that's been a tough thing for me too. Realizing that everybody's not going to want to be better. They're not going to want to do the work, or they'll start the work, and then, when it gets too hard, they'll decide not to. Have you had anything like that transpire?
Yeah, I had so I feel like I need to give like a little bit of backstory just for it to actually make part time sense. Um, my mother was the type who would do vindictive abuse. She purchased a bucket of ants and poured it on my head because I had got a B+ on my stomach test. I had got kicked out the house for the night because I burnt the last bag of popcorn, but it was her fault why I burnt the last bag of popcorn. She slammed my fingers in the doors on purpose, like purposely held my arm there. She killed my hamster, David Thunder Jr. There was never a senior, but it was David Thunder Jr. That was my nigga dog, and she ain't even had to do me like that. Uh, and so on and so on. But I didn't start. I had to start to realize with people that like if your own mother would do this type of treatment, and you can't expect nothing else from nobody else because the only two people who part-time owe you anything is your mother and your father. Other than that, anything extra, you know what I'm saying, is a bonus. But your mother and your father, because that's what you came in with, supposed to anyway. So from her alone, I had to watch how I acted with people because I knew I was trying to fill a spot. Like when Mother's Day comes around, I try not to even look at TV because I don't want to see the commercials and stuff. I try to avoid going into the stores because it's always mothers and daughters going to go shop for their grandma. But then I had to realize like I'm just not going to have that, and that's cool beans. It's okay. I did get a lesson in learning in life that how people will treat you, how people could treat you, could, because not everybody is that type of way, but how people could treat you. You know what I'm saying? Not to put too much faith in a person per se. Not as in though everybody's against you, but just to have a little bit of guard up. And I be wanting to have that type of relationship with her, but I already know that she's not there mentally. She's just not. It's not going to equate properly for us to actually have a relationship um, because she's never going to own up to it, and I don't need her to. But I can't play like you were saying. I'm a whistleblower. I can't sweep it up underneath the rug. Not about to play kissy face with you when I see you. Where you been at for the past 15 years? Why you ain't come to my graduation? Like I'm gonna ask these type of questions. Um, but all in the same breath, like you said, I'm part-time grateful that more than half of it happened because I know how to deal. I have a better understanding of how to deal with people. When I was about 22, 23, I was trying to fish for other people, but once again, that's when I came to that realization like you have to understand that if this type of energy came from your creator, it will come from anybody else walking around. So like just watch yourself. Um and then it also taught me not how not to be a mother towards my daughter. I make sure that, because I'm still human, if I get upset with her, that I go back and I apologize. Because, like how you were saying, some of the stuff rubbed off on us, and we don't mean to, but it come out. But as soon as I realize I'm acting like her, let me go back and apologize to her, and let's have a conversation. Because I don't want to have any kind of, I don't want that to trickle down. You know what I mean? Um, and she's human as well, so you got to make sure you apologize to him. Um, so like it's a tit for tat, like you said. Grateful that I made it through, and part time grateful that it happened because it taught me lessons for life. That, like you said, like I'm about to be 30. Well, I am 34. I'll be 35 in February. I feel like I didn't have to go through so many different aspects just from my lesson that I learned from her. So it kind of is what it is, type of thing.
Thank you for sharing. And I actually was going to ask you, um, if you had, a daughter or daughters. I have two sons, and I'll be honest, it was like I went through different phases of it. There was a phase where I wanted to have a daughter, and then there was other phases where I was like, oh, I don't want to, because I just
I didn't
kept,
want to have any.
yeah, I just kept thinking about the relationship, and I was like, oh my God, I don't even think I want to have any
Mm-hmm.
girls or whatever. But even with my sons, I definitely raised them being able to voice how they feel, come to me, about things. And I'm glad that I did that because, both of them come to me with any issues that they have or whatever. However, I can be honest in saying that, well, now my youngest son, he went to live with his dad at 12, which was the best decision I could have ever made. So he lives with his dad and stepmother. She's wonderful with him. However, my oldest son, I raised him on my own. His dad was in prison until he actually went. And then 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant, and he was gone for the first 8.5 years of his life. And then when he got out, he still decided, if I wasn't going to be with him, that he wasn't really going to mess with our son.
Same.
Now, um, the thing with that was that I enabled him. So, being that I had the codependency thing, and I didn't want him, um well, either one of them, because partial for 12 years of the my youngest life too, I enabled them tremendously. So what I mean by that is I did so much for them. I did everything for them. And that turned out to be an issue with my oldest son, um especially around when COVID hit and I moved to a different city. My whole idea was that I was going to come back every week to help him with things, and you know, I wasn't able to. So he was forced into having to do things for himself. That is something that, I would go back and do differently. But yeah, I definitely, you know, went through the many phases of not wanting to have girls because of that. Yeah. So how, I mean, outside of that, how is your relationship with your daughter?
Man, when I tell you that's my best friend, I ain't just saying that for the show. I ain't just saying that for the show. She texts me the funniest stuff. Like she missed the bus. She be like, "Hey, hey, hey, beautiful, Queen from the sea or something." Like she would just. We have the best bond ever. Like, my boyfriend, he had moved up to Tennessee for a job type of thing, and I'm all teary eyed and whatnot. And she comes in there with the snacks, and she comes and she just holds me, and she puts on my show that I like to watch on Netflix and whatnot. Like, that's my dog. That is my dog. She helps me with my homework for school sometimes. More than half the time, she ain't really helping. She's being my number one hater. But other than that, we have the coolest bond, the absolute coolest bond.
I love it. I love it. And that's like awesome. That's where, doing some of the work and like you said earlier, being accountable, you know, for your own healing and your own growth so that, you do something different with your daughter. So that's amazing. And, you know, the things that you went through with your mother, uh, you know, I'm sorry, sis, but again, I believe that we sign up for these things before we even get here to work through them. So I want to
Yes, we
commend
do.
you. Yeah, I want to commend you for
Yes,
doing
we
the
do.
work because it's not easy. This shadow
Mm-mm.
work is hard, and not only that, the things that you had to go through to even get to the point, um, where you know that you have to do the healing and the shadow work. That's also something that's not talked about because, when we start going through, I know when I see people that, are enlightened and, they're going through their awakening or even went through it, I always think to myself, like, what is their story? What did they go through? Because I know they went through some major
Trump,
things.
video. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. They went through some major horrific things to get to that point. And, that's also something, that's not talked about as much. We talk about the healing parts and all that. And sometimes people share their stories or whatever. But man,
And that's what a lot of people say though. But I think a lot of people be saying it, but they not hearing it. You get what I mean? Or they
mm,
don't want to hear it. The same way we having this conversation, somebody gonna be like, "Oh well, that's disrespectful to be telling your mama business." It's not though, cause this is my story.
right.
This ain't even her business. It's my story.
That's right. That's
But
right.
you don't want to hear it, so therefore you just think, "Oh, it's all love and light." No, I had to go through some certain things, unfortunately, to get here. Everybody's story ain't as or more. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So just don't, you know, think it's always gonna be love and light.
No.
What Erica Badu say? Sometimes it's Newport in a Coke 45.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a touchy subject, and I knew it was going to be. I even, before I decided to do this actual session, it would be times when I would bring it up, and there would be a couple people that would comment on it, but people get quiet when we start talking about, mothers and women. We can talk all day long about men and fathers, and
We'll
everybody's on
dog them
board,
out.
tearing them up.
Dog
You
them
know,
out. And
yeah,
that's one thing I can't do. And the only reason why I personally can't do it is because I was raised by a single father. Like once I was gone, once my mother kicked me out that Christmas Eve, and my daddy came back and came and got me. It's been me and him thugging it out. It was him making sure that I was taken care of even while he was with her, or when once they finally got a divorce. It's always been him. Then I had a grandfather. You know what I'm saying? Like
right,
certain people, unfortunately, got certain situations. Like my baby daddy, he ain't worth nothing. But back then, me chose him, so I got to deal with it.
right,
I can't bash him because I got one. I got a
mhm,
father. But we also can't be hypocritical and think that it don't come in the other side.
right, right. Absolutely. Like I said, there's a whole lot of us, men and women, walking around with mother wounds, and it just is what it is. And you know like I said, we're going to have the conversation. Matter of fact, I'm going to have more than one conversations because like I said, they need to be had. We need to talk about it. We need to stop sweeping it under the rug. We need to make sure that these things are, worked on. People are able to heal. They know how to heal from these things, how to do the work, because everybody does it. Sometimes people don't even know. Like I said, I was in my late 40s before I even understood that my issues were coming from a mother wound. All growing up, once I got to a point where I knew I was having issues, I always thought they were daddy issues,
Hmm
because I
Because that's the
didn't know
only
my
thing that
father.
we even talked about in the first. You
Right,
probably ain't even know that mommy issues existed, for real, for real.
right. And I had her telling me, now she came and ripped me out of one household, after she gave me up, but then, telling me I was going to go to foster care if I started looking for
Mhm.
my father. What would my life
Mhm.
have been? Would it have been different? I don't know. My dad had issues too, but, I'm just saying, I don't know because I was being
Right.
threatened with it. So again, we're not sweeping the stuff under the rug, and it's not about attacking,
Mm-mm.
women or, mothers or whatever, but, it is about, having some accountability and doing the work and healing, you know, some generational things that are being passed down. Nine
Mhm.
times out of 10, our mothers went through things as well that we don't know about, you know, and may have created some of what and who they were. But again, the jealousy and the hate that sometimes comes between the daughters and mothers is a real thing. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of women that have went through that. I have had some, say they're jealous of certain things with their daughters, and it's an immediate red flag. As soon as I hear it, as soon as I hear it, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So I definitely, want to, before we start wrapping up, just, throwing some things out there. And I'd love for you to add to it, whatever you feel you want to add, but, for anyone that is looking to, heal these different areas, where, some things have come up like the guilt, shame, and low self esteem and, whatnot, just some different things that you can do to, help yourself heal through it. So, first off, recognizing different patterns. I think that is definitely necessary, especially if you have a daughter or daughters, so that you're not doing some of the same things, that your mother did. Having the awareness and really understanding um, where that came from and being able to deal with the lack of emotional support. So like I said, with my mother, she wasn't affectionate at all. So I don't even remember her telling me she loved me until I was in my 20s. I do remember at the end, I know that our relationship started shifting when I got to a point in my early 20s where I just decided to forgive her. I was like, you know what, I have to forgive her for being who she is and who she was to me, because maybe she didn't know better, or, I don't know, but I had to forgive her for me. And that's when things
Mhm.
started kind of shifting even
Mhm.
between us. And, it's wild because, like I said, I had to take care of her while she battled cancer in my home, and she did pass away in my home. Um, and she kind of apologized before she passed away. It was I think it was the same day she passed away, because she told me that morning she told me when she woke up, she said, I'm gonna die today. And she actually did. Now I am really, really grateful that I had the chance to be able to take care of her, until she passed away, and give her, a comfortable space to be in
Mhm.
when she did. But I think that boundaries are important, and, you know, being able to express, the needs, whatever your needs are. I know with that client that I was talking about earlier, that's something that she's having to do now. And, yeah, she had to go no contact because her mother didn't want to. She kept pushing the boundary. She kept attacking her. She kept, you know, going overboard, and stepping
Mhm.
out of line, So I
Mhm.
think that that's very necessary to be able to express your needs. And, sometimes maybe, going to therapy. I know for myself, therapy was huge for me. And even though the person that I was going to wasn't spiritual, she wasn't going through her spiritual awakening at all, but she gave me a safe space to be able to, let it out and
Mhm.
listen and even give me different things, because if had she not gave me that book, or well, she didn't give it to me, but told me to get that book, Codependency No More. I don't know when I would have figured that out about myself. And that was going on in every area of my life. I was catering to people so tough that I was draining the life out of myself, you know. Um, so that was a thing. There's just so many different things that people could do. And I think being able to self reflect, and even sometimes, if you're pushing to break the cycle, dig down into the family history and kind of see where some of that stuff has come from. I know on my dad's side, that was one of the things as well. My dad wrote a book before he passed away. And I had one of his brothers, one of my uncles, was going crazy because he didn't want that book to be published. My dad wants it to be published. Well, he did before he passed. And I still have the book. But they were really afraid that a lot of the family secrets were going to get out. And they're actually not in the book. However, my dad did put in there that he was, he had a strained relationship with my mother. I mean, with his mother, I'm sorry. And that, it pushed him to have bad relationships with women. So, like I said, it's not just us, even though the topic today was on, the mother daughter dynamic, but there's a lot of men that had strained relationships with their mothers as well. And, you
Mhm.
know, um, a lot of the when we're attacking men, that's something that we have to keep in mind. I have sons, so I'm always advocating, and a brother, I'm always advocating for the men as well.
Mhm.
I definitely don't like that whole uh
They
man
all
hating
trash.
thing. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't like
I
it.
can't get with it. I'm so sorry. It'll never be like I can never type up here something that no, no,
Mm-mm. No,
no.
not at all. So yeah, I hold women accountable.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's something I do. I hold women accountable, and again, I'm the whistleblower. I'm not sweeping anything under the rug. I've gotten to a point where I really don't care who likes or doesn't like what it is that I have to say. It'll reach who it needs to reach, and I totally believe in alignment. So like you and I are here because we're aligned, and that's what it
Mhm.
is. You know. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Would you like to plug your social media or any platforms that you have?
Everything is Queen Entice from Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads. If you're interested in any copper jewelry or waist beads, bracelets, crystals, incense, sage, you can look on enticingelements.co. It is on all of my pages as well.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking some time out with me here. Um, yeah, I've been wanting to have this conversation for a while now, so I definitely appreciate you. Guys, you can find me on Facebook at Rose Guest, TikTok and Instagram. I am Rose Guest. YouTube is the same as here in this room. Red Soul Sessions. I would love for you guys to, if you haven't already, subscribe, hit the like button, and give me a review. I'd like to thank you guys for sharing this space with us today on Red Soul Sessions. I hope today's episode touched your heart and ignited a deeper passion within your soul. If you've had some issues with your mother, I commend you, and hopefully, you find some avenues to heal from those different things. So, as we part ways for now, remember to carry the light of your spirit and let it guide you. Until the next time we meet, take gentle care of yourself. Peace, love, and light.